I think he's like, you know how dolphins can shut off half their brain to go to sleep? I think he's able to do that.
Yeah, like JP2 could like listen to two things at once.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Fight Club with Tyler Durden? They call me Tyler Dolphin. I don't sleep.
Because you don't sleep. Don't sweat, don't sleep.
Amazing.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Hello, BeatiDudes Nation, worldwide, universal. Welcome to the BeatiDudes, a podcast for Christian men seeking to grow in holiness by learning from and with each other, walking arm in arm to eternity with authentic fraternity. My name is Paul Kolker, and I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Nick Bezner.
Those intros are getting just so good all the time.
Right?
They're
We're honing them.
They just are.
We're honing
They're
them.
awesome.
Yeah. And Jeffrey Schiefelbein.
They're so good that I've actually started to tear up during them. It's getting spiritual.
Yeah.
It's getting real.
Go back and listen to those on half speed. It'll move you slowly. But we're joined as we were on Monday.
As always.
No. As we were on Monday by we had him for a longer episode about the Camino, but we're going to get to learn a little bit more about his own personal Camino, as it were, his journey of discernment. Welcome back, TJ Bogan.
Hey, thank you guys very much.
TJ.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Crowd goes wild.
What does TJ stand for again? Because it's the most unique TJ.
Timon and Jumba.
Theron Jake.
Timon and Jumba.
I want Nick to come up with a new name for me. I think that'd be fun.
What is it?
Oh, Theo Jude.
Ooh,
That's
all
pretty close, right?
Yeah,
Is
he
it
threw a saint in there.
Theron, though? Is that right?
Theron, yeah.
Theron. Okay.
All right.
I saw the lamb seated upon the Theron.
Hey, I got something for you guys. So I wanted to bring.
Was this after the last show you went and got something for us?
I did.
With all the threats?
I knew that I was threatened not to bring
Look at
gifts when I was
this.
coming back.
Whoa. Nice.
I think there's
No
some
way.
symbolism
Look at
going on this thing.
Yeah,
For those people that are listening, that are not partaking in the video, you got to talk us through what we're holding here.
Yeah, and this is Katie's. So this is from Follow My Camino. So this is our thermos that we give everyone. These are, I think they're 24 ounces on the bottom.
I thought you were going to say they're $24. We spent about $24 on this for you.
Yeah. These are 24 ounces thermos, and we give these out to anyone and everyone who walks on the Camino. Wow. And inside, and the towel. The towel is, everybody's always searching for something to wipe the sweat off when they're walking. And so we give you the towel, and then we connect it to a carabiner, actually. Nice. So you get a carabiner, but for you guys, I just gave you the golf clip there. And
golf clip's fine.
Yeah, and then we've got the St. James cross on the back here. So
love it.
Yeah, and then inside you'll get there's a pin and a bracelet for you guys as well, and a sticker.
Yes.
Every time somebody goes, I didn't have enough for you guys, but
that St. James cross is awesome.
I know,
That's
right?
legit.
It's like so stunning on this as well, and that's why it's part of the logo as well. And then everybody gets this, and then they also get lip balm and some hand me wipe stuff and a couple other little gifts. But we've also introduced that we give a T-shirt away as well. I need your guys' sizes, and I will ship you guys a T-shirt.
Thank you.
Wow.
And then
You can buy ours online.
oh, there you go.
T-shirt swap. It's like
T-shirt
at the
swap,
end of an
exactly.
NFL game.
Yeah.
Jersey swap.
I'll send you
I'll give you my
QR
jersey.
code to buy one from us.
I want Jeff's jersey. And
This is
then
legit.
the other thing that we're
is
doing
awesome.
now is we're actually giving out not a subscription, but we're giving books through Verbum as for everyone that walks. So everyone that walks on the Camino through Follow My Camino gets their goodie bag, and we ship it to them, and they get to pick out their shirt. And we now have the sweatshirts available as well that I'm wearing today. So we're really trying to.
How many people do the Camino every year? Like
This year
globally?
alone, they're going to hit over 500,000 folks.
Whoa.
So, yeah, of walking. Yeah, and you know what's interesting is the Spaniards still walk more than anyone else, than any other country as a whole. But when you factor in the amount of Americans that are going on it now, it's just it's like it's a holy year every year now.
Wow.
So
That's cool. Can you
Which
talk
will
about
be
the
a whole year in
symbolism, too?
2027 though. So
2027?
Yeah.
Get in now
Get in
before it
now.
gets crowded. Hey, what did talk about the conch, the shell, the...
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because
arrow.
you've got this beautiful logo here with Buen Camino.
Yep.
So it means like good walk or happy walking.
The walking with you.
Happy traveling.
Happy travel, right?
Yeah.
We have our hiker because everyone's wearing a backpack, and we use hiking poles. We always recommend hiking poles for people. It kind of just keeps everyone going. And then we have the St. James Cross here, and you'll see that in Santiago, and you'll see it along the way. And then we have the shell. And so when we talk about the shell, you can reference the shell in many ways, right? So we see the shell in baptism, right? And the priest pouring the water. We see it in thirst, right? And so you can use a shell, and they would have used a shell back long ago along the seacoast to dip water and to drink from. And then when you think about the shell and you think about the rays of the shell and they're coming to the center point, that center point of the shell is Santiago. And that's where St. James is.
All the trails
leading together, no matter what tributary, as Nick said earlier, that you're using, and everybody coming together to that one focal point, and the cross being right there in the middle.
I love
and then we've got we're playing with maybe putting some Compostela, the stars, and putting the Trinity on there as well. So we might change that up at some point in time. So really trying to keep the logo and everything that we're doing centered on St. James.
Focus. I love it.
Focus.
That is
But it's like, if you're going to go do this thing, don't just go with any pilgrimage company.
No. Yeah.
You're the one that specializes in the Camino. I love it.
Yeah. And everything we're doing is purpose for everybody having a great experience. The things that we do in Santiago, that the experiences you get to do, walking on the roof and going to see the archives, and
The roof.
the roof is on fire.
You just went with that. I'm just
Sorry,
trying to
I feel
pick
like I'm
on-
part of the
I'm just-
show.
I'm trying
Up
to
on
pick
the
on your
roof.
northern accent with your rough.
Up on the roof.
from the guy who says woof.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I'm making it where people can get that QR code that has a hiker and a shell in it. Just get on YouTube, then get your phone out, then do something else, and it'll go to the internet.
And you'll be back at the internet where you started.
Right? It's a circle.
We're about to talk about monastic life, but I wanted to show you some symbolism. So we actually just had these mugs made. This is the logo for Undivided Life, the company that Nick and I are both with, and there's like a cross in there. But then I said, I can't have a mug and there's just a logo on one side, because what are you going to put on the other side? Well, look what I put. This is my business cup.
And I said, Jeff, why are business and cup capitalized? He's like, because I liked it.
This is my.
I'm surprised you didn't put quotes around my
business cup. So similar to what you just gave us.
so similar,
So deep in meaning.
rich in fullness.
Yes.
A full, rich coffee cup.
Paul, you can't quit. You have to stay with this.
I'm trying. I'm so trying. Well, this is my business segue
There
right
you go.
here.
Goodness.
We're gonna get back to knowing you now, because we learned a lot about the company last time, and we learned a lot about the Camino itself, what it is as a pilgrimage. But what about you? Well, like what has been your Camino through discernment? Because
Good question.
Because it sounds like you have some history with religious life and all of that.
Yeah, so the Camino, and it's going to kind of go back and forth a little bit, and I apologize if we're
No.
too
It's all
much.
good.
But
We like to stay-
We weave, as Donald Trump said on his Joe Rogan podcast. He's like, I weave wide, and I always bring it back to the point. I was like, I like that.
I weave.
Yeah. I weave wide.
oh goodness. So back in 2012, I think it was, that's when I first saw the movie The Way, right?
Okay.
And I think it came out in 2011. We can fact
sounds
check
about
that, but I
right.
think it's 2011. And so Jeff Minjen, again, business partner, and he's a youth pastor in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is where I lived before I moved back to Indiana. And so I was going through discernment. And I went to a couple of different silent retreat weekends and, trying to figure out myself. And that's kind of why we talk about the Camino and being what it is and how it brings out the things that people are searching for, right? And so during that time, Jeff, being a youth pastor, was like, hey, we're going to have movie night with the kids and do this, movie, and then have a discussion about faith and life and whatnot. And so we watched the movie, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, Jeff, we need to do this walk. And he's like, yeah, dude. And I was like, no, we seriously need to do it. He's like, okay, yeah. He's never walked it yet with me. No. the way of life. The way of life.
Name and shame.
Yeah.
There we go.
No. And so I was like, okay, I really want to do this. And so during that period of time, I was visiting the monasteries and doing silent retreats. And there's one in Berryville, Virginia. It's a Trappist monastery up there. And I went up there, and my spiritual director was like, hey, you should really go for a weekend and kind of just experience this, because he was like, if I wasn't married, I'd be a monk. And I was like, oh, that's totally different, right? And so
very different.
Very different, yeah. And so I went, and I was just like floored by it. And so I came back, and I told a bunch of other guys, and then I brought another group of guys with me. And then we went back again, we brought some more guys with us, and we just had that really great experience, silent retreat experience that we were looking for and that I was looking for. And so then that led to going out to a website, Vision something, I can't remember, Vocation something, and going in, and you fill out a bunch of information, and you say, hey, I'm really thinking about this. And then I got contacted by a couple of different monasteries and different orders. And so I spent 3-4 years going through and just really searching and trying to figure out what did I need to heal from life, right? And where I was in life. And so I ended up going out to Mount Angel Abbey, which is out in Oregon, and they're Benedictine monks. And I spent an enormous amount of time with them to the point where I started going through the application process. And then during that application process, I discerned out, which happens a lot to a lot of guys going through that, right? And so then fast forward to 2016, got married and moved to Indiana. And during that time, or 2017 got married, but during 2016, my family and friends were, there were some health concerns and whatnot. So I came back to Indiana, and I went down to Gethsemane, which is down in Kentucky. And it's just, 5 hours for me. Trappist.
Yeah.
So back to the Trappist, right? And so I was like, okay, so I met Father Anton down there, who's the vocations director. I think he still is the vocations director. And I went down there, and I was like, this is what's happening, right? And he's like, well, have you done any spiritual retreats? I was like, oh yeah, let me just tell you all about them.
Just a few,
right? And so I got to go sit at Thomas Merton's desk and write a note to myself and just be in that house there. And I was like, And so one of the things that we were talking about was the Camino. And Father was like, oh, I've known a lot of Trappists that have gone on the Camino. I was like, 4 years ago, I really wanted to go on it, and I never went on it. So I finally was able to go on the Camino, and during that time, there was an enormous amount of crying, an enormous amount of searching, an enormous amount of praying, of just trying to say, where do I believe I'm at in my life, and where do I believe God is actually trying to call me to go? And so I came back, and that's when I started Follow My Camino, because I really had such a huge impact on me that I was like, I want other people to go, and there's got to be a better way, a smarter way, a more efficient way, an economical way, talking about spreadsheets from Monday's show. Yep. And so that was great, by the way. And so and so I was like, there's got to be a way. So that's when I started Follow My Camino. And from that, I really just wanted to be wholeheartedly involved in everyone going and having the same kind of experience that I did. And so then during those Caminos, because not only am I taking people over there, I'm also going through my own Camino.
Sure.
And so through that Camino, I went back to the church, and I said, I still feel a calling. Now I'm married. And so I said, what do I do? And so I went back and met with spiritual director, and he's like, well, let's talk about the diaconate. So that's where I'm at now, is applying through the diaconate and going for next year and hopefully get into the cohort. And so when you talk about that, the vocation, the Camino for me was the vocation path. Right? It was the ability to be able to decompress. There was a guy in Virginia, because I lived there for 12 years. He always talked about the noise between the ears, and he was a military guy, and he was a colonel, and he went through a lot, and very sick guy now. But he always talks about keeping the noise out of between your ears and staying focused on what it is we're supposed to be doing. And too many times, at least in my lives and maybe in your guys' lives and other guys' lives, we get lost in that, right? We worry about the things that we shouldn't be worried about, and whether it's money or home and just social, whatever. And so he's always talking about get rid of the noise between your ears. And that's where, through all of the vocation stuff and going through all the spiritual direction, you really get a sense of that, and you get to practice that. It's not just a one-time thing. And then going on the Camino, even now when I bring people on the Camino, there's times where it's overwhelming for me, even still today, because it's just such a spiritual adventure, right, that we go through. And from 1 month of going on the Camino to 2 months later, whatever happens during that time, I bring to the Camino. and I bring it back to St. James. And so that has really been a lot of that vocation discernment process.
Is there like an average number of days you watch somebody like kind of let go finally? They start the Camino and they're anxious and excited and they got a lot of big expectations, and then there's some like tipping point day whatever that you start to see something change?
Yeah, I usually say it on like day 3.
Okay.
Yeah, and day 3 of actually walking. So the first day is travel, and everyone's really nerves are up, and we're getting on planes, and there's delays and baggage issues or whatever may happen. And then on day 1, they're shell-shocked, right? And they haven't figured out what the Camino is yet. They're looking, and I'm showing them things, and they're like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Different baggage issues.
I'm not comfortable here in this foreign land.
Yeah. And then by day 2, they're walking, and they see the schedule, right? They see, okay, we wake up, we have breakfast, we get on the trail, we walk, we stop a couple of times during the day, and then we end up in a church, or we don't, or whatever the case may be. And then by day 3 or 4, they really start to settle down, and then they really are able to see all what's around them, right? Because at first, when it's just so centered on us, and again, this is kind of like the discernment process, when it's also centered on us and we forget the reality of everything that we're going through and what we're trying to walk for, when it finally sinks in and you start seeing them coming into the churches that we see, and they don't want to leave the church, then you know you've got it, right? Because at first they're just going in and, genuflecting, and they're in awe of these beautiful churches in Europe, and because a lot of people have never been to Europe, and so it's the wow factor, and then once the wow factor kind of settles down a little bit, and they actually are like, oh, I know what I was coming to walk the Camino for, then they really get into it, right? It settles into their heart and their soul and their being, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to pray today for this, or whatever the intentions are going to be. And so I'd say day 3 or 4 is where I really start to see people change their demeanor and the calmness about them and what they're searching. So yeah.
Okay, so there are a lot of good things.
Oh, there's a lot packed in there.
No, it's just a lot to unpack. Speaking of baggage, but so okay, you said a couple things in your early part about discernment.
Yeah.
Which, maybe our listeners aren't as familiar with that term or what that means.
Yeah.
And so discernment is about finding your vocation, and vocation, it comes from the word for calling, right? For what God has for you. But then you also said that you tried to apply and enter, but then decided against it, which I think some people would see as a failure of discernment.
Oh gosh, no.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's actually part of the process.
Yeah. So when you think of discernment and you think of what are you called for? Like most people graduate college, we get a job, and we think that's what we're called to be, right? Like I'm going to go be a pharmacist, and that's my calling.
Yeah.
That may be your professional calling, but really what you've got to then think about is, what does God want you to do with that skill set that you have, but also with your life, if you're married, if you're unmarried, and everybody has a vocation, right? I mean, that's what the church has always taught us, is that there's vocation, skills, and talents, and what we're called to do in the works that we do for God. What are those things that you should be searching for? And only through discernment process of a lot of in-depth prayer, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of patience, and just asking God, where do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? Through that discernment process is where you realize, is this really what I should be doing? And should I focus somewhere else, right? And you'll see a lot of seminarians go in and they think, oh, I'm going to be a priest. There's like a 10% discernment out, and it could be, and it's the same thing in the monastic world, and I don't know if that 10% is a valid percent, but let's just go with it for now.
There's some amount.
Yeah. There's some.
It's 100%. He's 100% right.
Yeah, I think it's 10%. Yeah. And but they discern out all the time. So just because a guy graduates high school or college and says, I want to be a priest, the priesthood is discerning him, and he's discerning the priesthood. The same as the monastic world, right? They are the group of Benedictines or Trappists or whatever, Norbertines or whatever, they're discerning, are you really right for us?
Because it's a community.
It's a community. And they're looking at that and they're saying, hey, we don't think that this is really where you're at right now. And then they pull that application away from certain guys. Or they say, go ahead and apply. And through that process, when you do your spiritual autobiography, through you do your interviews, then they decide, with their wisdom and the years that they've been a Benedictine or a Trappist or whatever, they say, yeah, we think that you would be a good fit. And then through that novice program and through the vows that you take, it's still a discernment. And it could be anywhere from 3 years to 7 years before you truly are in an order. No different than anything else in the church.
And so the Benedictines come from St. Benedict, and the Trappists come from St. Trapp. Like I've never known. No, I mean, like I actually don't.
The Trappists follow the same rule. The rule of St.
Yeah, it has to
Benedict.
do with the offshoot, right? Like of where
They wanted to be more serious.
They trap the beer.
Yeah, exactly right.
Like, that's all I think of when I think of trap.
Yeah.
They are beer trappers.
They
There's
are beer
bear
trappers.
and then there's beer trappers.
Cheesemakers, winemakers.
Blessed are all the cheesemakers.
When you think of the Trappist, and one of the reasons that I really went back to Gethsemane was that their whole mission is to pray. And I really love, you guys seem very boastful and outgoing as well. As much as we can be that way,
Thank you.
there is a sense of finding time for prayer. And I really love the fact that they do all of the hours of the day. And so going into the chapel and praying, and that peace and that calm that it brings to you is really a vocation and a calling, versus like the Dominicans, who their job is to preach. So you'll see Dominicans teaching, you'll see them running churches, and that's their full-time mission, is to go and preach. Trappists don't preach, Trappists pray. Benedictines teach and pray. So each order has a different calling or a different charismatic charism.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Of what they do.
I
So
have a real question, but a song popped in my head, and it was Trappists don't preach, I'm in trouble. You know the Madonna? He said Trappists don't preach.
Trappists don't preach.
Papa don't preach. You've ever heard that song? Y'all were born in the 90s. That's neat.
I was born in the 80s, but I don't remember that.
Whatever.
Decades later,
Here's
Jeff.
my real question for you, TJ. The other one wasn't a question. It's what part of all the studies and all the discernment you did in monastic life have you stuck with? Like, what's stayed with you on your Camino?
The Benedictines.
Yeah, but like, what do you do the hours?
Yeah,
Obviously the hours?
and I love doing the hours. So we do morning hours and evening hours on the Camino, and especially when we have a priest with us. That's even a more richer, fuller experience. But doing the hours, doing the hours, just even if it's just on your phone. I actually just had a conversation with a priest, and he's like, maybe we shouldn't do it on our phone so we don't get distracted. And going back to the noise between the ears thing. So now I'm going back to the breviary and actually pulling the book out and purposely taking the book on the next Camino. So
But for anybody who wants to take a look, it's iBreviary, I believe, is
iBreviary.
kind of the main app for that. There are other options.
There's
I know.
tons of apps.
Yeah,
out there,
but that's one of the good ones to find, and you can actually start to see how to pray the liturgy of the hours that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You should like, subscribe, and give us 5 stars. I forgot to say that on the last show.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
And join lucidprivateoffices.com.
And follow My Camino.
FollowMyCamino.com, Solidarity HealthShare.
And on Instagram. So there you go.
Somebody told me yesterday I was blowing up on Insta, and I was like, I can't talk to you. I don't know what that means. I thought it was a bad thing.
You know, that's when your follower count is going up
I
on
went up
Instagram.
by 3. I was blowing up. That
From 1 to 3, that's huge.
that rule of St. Benedict talks about how you should drink ample amounts of wine. Remember we read that?
Yeah.
That's right.
So I've stayed with that one.
That's the rule that you're sticking with.
Only stay true to the rule.
I don't even like wine that much, but I don't want to let Benedict down.
Your 3-year-old would be very
Good
upset.
thing you go to Mass and you get all the wine you need.
That's right.
Right?
That's how that works.
Yeah.
Do you get the communion of the precious blood at your parish?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we're all moving to Byzantine, Indiana, or wherever you said you were from.
Rensselaer, Indiana.
Rensselaer, Indiana.
He's close.
Rensselaer sounds like a fake town from The Simpsons. Like, meet me in Rensselaer.
I thought it sounded like it had its own Polytechnic Institute. That's what I mean, but I'm a nerd, so.
There might be. I have to look.
Rensselaer Polytech, isn't that a thing?
Polytech is Purdue Polytech because
Purdue,
Purdue
okay.
University is nearby. So yeah.
See, I was there.
You were in the zone.
In the ballpark?
You were in the ballpark.
Rensselaer, an hour and a half from anything else you could name.
That's on their sign.
That's on their side.
So you're going to start the diaconate. You're hoping to start the diaconate.
Hoping to.
Okay, so we'll be
do-
praying for that process, for that discernment, for everybody involved in that. We want to really encourage people to understand that, any of these pilgrimages, right? You go to the Holy Land, you go to Our Lady of Guadalupe, you get to walk the Camino, you go to Lourdes. The place matters, but you also, it's with you, right? It's the
process as well.
It's transforming you is the word that came to my mind.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
buzzword that we shall not
Well,
say.
and it's interesting to me too that you hear all these like business techniques and tactics and stuff that come out about like, oh, clearing your head or maintaining focus, and a lot of them say, oh, well, you want to walk to clear your head, and that the physiology of walking actually does something to the brain, and it's like, it's almost like somebody designed it that way.
St. Benedictine says, St. Augustine says, it is solved by walking.
There you go.
So that's one of the quotes on one of our shirts. It is solved by walking.
I really
Steve
think
Jobs always did walking meetings.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like notorious, like famous for it.
Like, come walk with me, Nick.
Yeah.
I really think a lot of the modern day business stuff, so-called modern day business stuff, is people just rediscovering old like Catholic practices and stuff. Yeah.
Well, think of Steve Jobs and Stoicism, all the removing of stuff so you can get back to a simplicity. Like that's
Yeah, avoiding decisions and
I already converted to Benedictine Oblate at his death. No, I'm just thinking that up.
There was a guy who walked on the Camino and then he went back home and he got rid of like half his house.
Yeah.
wow.
He just needed
chopped it in
the
half.
art of detachment, right?
So-
That art of
Sorry.
detachment was like, if I can walk for 3 weeks on a Camino with only 4 sets of clothes or change of clothes, and
Why do I
need a 4,000 square foot house
Yeah.
with lots of stuff that
bursting closet. And,
exactly. So
Burst in closet?
A bursting, like a
Oh.
closet bursting
I thought
full.
you had to like make
it
an entrance. I'm here for my clothes.
I know it'd be more appropriate from the Camino to go to a walk-in closet.
is Paul's stuff still in your house now,
It's
though?
really weird, all the
Yeah.
stuff I keep finding. Yeah.
Yeah, Lego sets that I buried in the walls.
N64 games.
Yeah.
I found something that said
Super
Paul,
Nintendo.
There was, in that closet upstairs, it said Paul is still here. And I'm like, what?
I
Pre-Halloween.
carved that when you gave me the tour. I just wanted to mess with you.
Kids, let's not go in this bedroom anymore. We moved into this house, and then all my kids moved into the master bedroom, and I was like, why did we buy a new house? Like, we should have gotten an apartment.
Just get an RV.
Exactly. Then we could go park in front of Paul's new house. Paul, are you up yet? Okay, followmycamino.com. The first word is actually in the URL, follow. So are the other 2 words, My Camino.
FollowMyCamino.com.
If you said W's, it'd be really obvious, but then you'd look like you were old.
www.followmycamino.com.
That's right.
Yes.
How old are you?
53.
All right, you still got a shot at the diaconate. We need you to get in there and get
That's
going.
right, that's
All
right.
And you still got it when it comes to walking the Camino several times a year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had, 5 knee surgeries, so I'm good now. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's intense.
We won't talk about people getting injured.
You talk about everybody's excuse. I feel too healthy to do the Camino.
It would be easy.
Jeff, just like,
Wouldn't it be a sacrifice?
Hence his name on the back of the shirt.
Right? I'd do it in 21 days and wouldn't break a
hey,
sweat.
as soon as you break your leg, then you sign up.
Okay.
Like, that's the deal.
I'm going to be walking in front of everybody so you can be like, I think that's Jeff Schiefelbein up there.
How many miles a day do you walk, Jeff?
Huh? Listen, I have 7 kids.
I know. That's why you
So
walk
the
'em.
number of steps.
Yeah, like nobody even can figure out when I sleep. Like,
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've asked you that question multiple
Oh, it
times.
does.
Nobody knows. He doesn't even know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think he's like, how dolphins can shut off half their brain to go to sleep? I think he's able to do
Yeah,
that.
like JP2 could like listen to 2 things at once.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Did you ever
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
movie Fight Club with Tyler Durden? They call me Tyler Dolphin. I don't sleep.
Because you don't sleep. Don't sweat, don't sleep.
Amazing.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. Make sure to check out www.followmycamino.com. We will see you on the Caminos of Life, and for the rest of you, we will
See you in the Eucharist.
God bless.
God bless.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to join us at our undersized table, subscribe to the video version of the show on YouTube by typing @ that's the symbol @, so shift and 2 on your keyboard, @the_BeatiDudes on YouTube. We'll see you there.